Back then to Kawhi, because another conversation we've had here this morning, because he's such a difficult guy to know, is what, if any, impact do you believe the outcome of the next 2 weeks will have on his future? He's going to play in the NBA Finals, and then on July 1st, he's going to become a free agent. And, everyone has had him going back home to Los Angeles basically since this process began. How do you think whatever happens over the next few weeks influences what winds up happening with Kawhi?
The fair answer is I don't think any of us knows a damn thing about what Kawhi Leonard is going to do, outside of maybe his uncle, Dennis Robinson, who spoke to Yahoo Sports and gave some very poignant comments about him and why he ultimately ended up leaving San Antonio and why this is such a great moment for him. But we simply don't know because Kawhi Leonard doesn't give any kind of indication. Charles Barkley nicknamed him, accurately I might add, Cyborg. He shows no emotion. He walks up to me during warm-ups, Greeny, and gives me a piss. Hey, Stephen A. The same exact impression that he had while playing in the first quarter, the second, the third, and the fourth quarter. It never changes. You get no emotion. I mean, he should easily be called Spock Leonard. I mean, that's how he is. There's no emotion. I mean, that's what it is. And so, you don't know what he's going to do, but I will tell you this. Toronto is a fabulous city. I could do without the cold weather and the winters. They're right near Buffalo. I'm not down with that. And I'm sure him being a Southern California native, he probably is not going to be down with that as well. But I will tell you, most teams, actually all teams in the NBA, have a city behind them. This man has a country behind him. You got Kawhi and Dine, where the restaurants have promised him free meals for life if he were to stay. The entire country of Canada has basically descended upon Toronto, and they all support him. He has been deified already. When you take that into consideration, that's not something that could be eclipsed if he were to end up joining the Clippers or the Lakers. Because if you join the Clippers, as much as I'm impressed with them, the Clippers brand in L.A. is what it is. And with the Lakers, LeBron is there. And so when you look at it from that perspective, if you care about that, then Toronto obviously would be an ideal place. Plus, it's not the Western Conference, it's the Eastern Conference. So there's an easier road to prosperity. But in the end, still in all, it's about what he wants, and no one has a clue. No one.
Well said. Stephen A. is 7 minutes away. First take coming your way here on Memorial Day on ESPN. Thank you, Stephen A. Continued travels, and we'll see you again in 7 minutes. And then we hope that you'll get up with us again tomorrow morning here on ESPN.
With just 21 points on 7 for 18 shooting in the Bucks Game 6 loss. And afterwards, Giannis in his post-game presser came to an abrupt conclusion. He walked out. Take a listen.
You guys have talked a lot about how at this point, sometimes it takes experience. I'm wondering if now that you have some of that experience, if you see more validity to that point or what you think about that now that you've gone through it.
Milton.
Okay, so
Middleton was funny there.
That obviously, yes, that became a gift. It requires some explanation, and it's complicated, but that's an ESPN reporter asking the question, and she had written a story that a lot of people believed made Giannis mad, and that's why he walked out, and she was on ESPN radio saying she does not believe that's why he walked out. He was just expressing his frustration. One way or the other on that, how about that fact, the notion that he kind of, there it is, your season's just ended. You're the team. I mean, it is Giannis and the Bucks, and you walk out of a press conference because maybe because there's a reporter that you have an issue with, maybe because you are just so frustrated that you just couldn't answer one more question. Would that be of any concern to you?
No, not at all. In having watched Giannis go through his career early on, I love Giannis. I love his makeup. I love what he stands for. I love who he is. He's emotional. Obviously, he wants to get his team to the finals. It didn't happen. It's tough to go up there right after a loss like that. And he was probably looking for anything to exit. I don't know. But in just talking to the people that have coached him in the past, some of the people that coach him now, his teammates, they all love him. They say, this guy's he's different. This guy works like crazy, and it's not him saying he's working. It's not him posting pictures of him working. It's what other people that are with him are saying about him and what he's done for that franchise. His impact on winning is significant. He's not only brought out the best in himself, he's brought the best out in his teammates. To be 24 years old and to have the type of season that the Bucks did, he gets a lot of credit for that. So if he, walks off the stage like he's emotional, and losing bothers him, and I love that about him.
You have a specific example of losing bothering him, too, that you were bringing up to us earlier. We're going to see it right here, but go ahead and get us started on it.
Yeah, so this was Game 6 against the Bucks, and it's the end of the game, and he just winds up and he wipes Dunleavy out, you know, and I think that the big thing for him was, again, the frustration, and you can look at how skinny he is in that picture.
Yeah.
This guy's added 40 pounds of muscle, and he's just worked incredibly hard on his body. Now, let me add this about Dunleavy.
Yeah.
Dunleavy's thrown a lot of punches in his time as well. But I love that he hated to lose. And the way this guy has worked every night in the gym, practices, does it by, he's not, you know, I don't think he'll ever leave Milwaukee.
But just, wait, hold on, sorry. Say that again?
I don't think he'll ever leave Milwaukee. I think he wants to do it there. And the way he's been, what he's done for that franchise, even last year in the playoffs, to take the Celtics to 7 games and to see his growth this year and what he's doing for that franchise, it says a lot about him. And he's 24 years old. His impact on winning is phenomenal.
It's very interesting that you say that, because the belief is that there's sort of been a conventional wisdom. Can they get over the top with him there? Do they need to win for him to stay? And generally the sense that people have is that the reason he may have been frustrated with the reporter who asked the question is that she had written a piece suggesting that they need to win the whole thing in order to entice him to want to stay. But you don't see it that way.
I don't see it that way. His teammates rave about him. I think the way who he is and how he plays will attract players to go there too.
Well, I'm going to say this. If he stays with what he's done, he's going to get what they call a super max contract.
Right.
And if he goes somewhere else, he's going to lose $50 million. That's the end of the story right there.
He's going to be in Milwaukee.
He's going to be in Milwaukee.
There we go.
Then let's talk about him as a player in a different regard. Because he is the guy that when people say, well, if you could start a franchise with any one player, his name probably comes up more than anybody else's. And he has made himself from what he was, that skinny kid that we saw there in 4 years ago, into this guy who is chiseled and awesome now. But we saw some of the flaws in his game, some of the things he is missing. What does he need to add to the repertoire to take it next level next year?
I think the big thing is the free throw shooting. That has to improve. I liked what he did with his three-point shot this year. You can see he's improved that significantly. He's a lot more confident, and I think it'll get better and better as time goes on. But every year, this guy has come back significantly better, and you don't do that by talking about working, hanging out, doing okay. This guy is in the gym working, and that's why he's improved.
Before I give my comment, is it me or everything Tibbs is saying is pre-social media?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like anything with social media is just this bad thing because he's old school and I love him to death.
Yeah.
But Giannis is going to have to get a mid-range jump shot because what the Toronto Raptors did to him in this series was played zone, okay? And they dared him to make that shot out front. And I think, like Tip said, he shot the three a little bit better, okay? And my last point for him as far as his development going into next year, he has to be a better passer out of double teams. And he saw that a lot in this Toronto series. And, you know, he had some turnovers that, you know, he shouldn't have had. So those are the two things that I think
LeBron early on in his career, now LeBron always had the passing component.
Yeah.
But his shooting improved each year. And I think we're going to see the same thing from Giannis.
Yeah.
Our post-game coverage continues. Stephen A. Smith is here. We heard Tim Legler's opinion, Stephen A. We just heard from Coach Budenholzer. I'll ask you the same thing. It's 76-61. We're 12 minutes away from a Game 7 back here stateside. What happened?
Well, first of all, I think, listen, we're going to talk about Kawhi Leonard because he's reestablished himself as the superstar we knew him to be. Finishing with 27 and 17, some big-time plays down the stretch, no question. But to me, the unsung hero of the game was Fred VanVleet, coming off the bench, drilling about 4 3-pointers. He had a hot hand. And you look at Kyle Lowry, he was making some threes as well. But to get that contribution from VanVleet and Kyle Lowry really saved the day, because throughout the game, Kyle Lowry really looked tired. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you just got to give credit where credit is due. Kyle Lowry, you know, he stepped up. VanVleet stepped up. Kawhi Leonard is who he is. And the Milwaukee Bucks just couldn't hit shots when it really counted from the perimeter. And I think that's the story of this game.
Van Vliet had 14 points. By the way, even if Giannis goes on to win the NBA's MVP, it'll be unveiled next month at the NBA Awards. This is a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow. What do you make of the way his season ended and the way he played in particular the last couple games?
Listen, the bottom line is this. He's a tremendous talent. You're talking about the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's a tremendous talent. There's no question. Going to the hole, he's pretty unguardable. Can't guard him one-on-one. But when you put a wall up against him, and it's led by Kawhi Leonard trying to disrupt his dribble drive penetration, the guys he was kicking it out to were not hitting perimeter shots with regularity. There was no definitive secondary offensive option. Even though Chris Middleton finished with 14 points and was hitting shots early, he was nowhere to be found late in the game as it waned when it really, really counted most. And so when you look at it from that perspective, they've got to go back to the drawing board. He's a tremendous talent, but he's raw. He's got to improve his perimeter game, his perimeter shooting game. He's got to improve his free throw shooting. And more importantly, they got to get some other kind of playmaker so he can be down in the post instead of trying to dribble into 2, 3, and 4 guys in order to create opportunities for himself or to create open shots for perimeter players who can't seem to do anything when you get up on them, press them, and force them to put the ball on the floor. You're going to have to get another playmaker in Milwaukee and a perimeter shooter that can actually do so off the dribble while creating his own shot instead of relying on a Greek freak to do so. They've got to go back to the drawing board. He's got to go back to the drawing board, but it's a lesson to be learned. His upside is tremendous. Nobody can deny that.
No doubt about it. Stephen A., one more for you before we let you go live from Toronto. We've been talking about the Warriors literally for the last 5 years, but now we got to talk about a finals matchup that involves somebody other than LeBron for the Dubs. Give me your early read here. Raptors versus Warriors. What are we looking for?
I'll be happy if the series goes 6 games. I was wrong about this series initially because I picked Milwaukee, and obviously I fell on a sword of ignorance like most people because we thought their size and what have you would be too much for Toronto to overcome. But I'm certainly going to go down with the ship that is the Golden State Warriors. I don't give a damn what's going on here tonight. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. It's a beautiful thing for the country of Canada. We get it. The crowd, the fans were fantastic. There were 16,000 people cheering outside in Jurassic Park. They expanded it. It usually only hold 3,000 to 5,000. Everybody was out here. Everybody in this building was rocking. I'm glad they enjoyed the moment. It was touching. It really, really was. It felt like they won a championship tonight, and I don't blame them, because that's the only time they're going to feel that way. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson's coming into the house. Draymond Green, the way he's playing, is coming into the house. You're not going to see the Golden State Warriors be devoid of having personnel that can hit perimeter shots. What Milwaukee struggled with is Golden State's specialty. And with that in mind, I have to give Golden State the edge. Kawhi Leonard pulls this off and beats the Golden State Warriors with or without KD. He beats the Golden State Warriors. Let me tell you something right now. Whatever we're praising about Kawhi Leonard today is going to elevate exponentially if he pulls this off. Because anybody that knows basketball, I don't know how you can see them pulling off a victory over the Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. Not the way Klay's been playing and the way Steph has been playing. And, oh, by the way, Klay has attitude. And he should, after getting robbed and screwed over by not being on any all-NBA team. He's got attitude, Steph's got attitude, and Golden State is out to prove that with or without Kevin Durant and Boogie Cousins, they can three-peat. Toronto, good luck, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourself tonight, because I don't see it happening moving forward.
All right, so the Raptors at 58 wins, the Warriors at 57, which is why Game 1 on Thursday will be where Stephen A. is standing, the one and only Stephen A. Smith, bringing it only the way he can here on SportsCenter. Can't wait for next Thursday night, Stephen A. Thanks very much.